Well, thank you, Rajiv. Thank you for those sobering words and sobering thoughts on some of the conundrums which currently Parliament is experiencing. Now, before I really respond to some of the things which you mentioned, I want to address the broad theme of democracy versus development as the caption of this session, which the organizers have put. Now, frankly speaking, it's easy to come to conclusions which are pessimistic. But I think that we need to place this in a somewhat historical context, particularly the past situation in India. I was glancing through Francis Fukuyama's new book, The Origins of the Political Order, and it's striking that the most important phenomena, perhaps, in the last 42 years has been the march of democracy. Whereas by 1972, there were only 44 countries which had a democratic form of government. Currently, the number of democratic governments have really exceeded 120. And the most important phenomena of the 21st century has been really the march of democracy. So at a certain conceptual level, when you say democracy versus development, democracy is development. And one of the sine qua non of the far-reaching political and economic changes which the world has embraced is to embrace democracy as a form of government which really gives you the development at the end of it. Now, having said this, of course, democracy means different things to different people. But so does development mean different things to different people. If you look at, for instance, what democracy is, you have a whole spectrum from whether the debate on whether you want to have a presidential form of government, whether you want to have a federal model, what kind of a voting structures and so on. I'll come to some of those important things. But democracy means different things to different people. But so does development mean different things to different people. And is growth automatically a sine qua non or coterminous with development? Well, my old teacher, Professor Amartya Sen, whose book I have currently the privilege of reading, which released just 2 weeks ago, entitled An Uncertain Glory, India and Its Contradictions, brings this out very harshly, that growth is not a sine qua non, nor is it coterminous with development, because development means development of the human skills, better life quality, better performance in terms of the index of human development. So I think that, we really need to also view development in a somewhat more holistic way than making it really equal to what growth is. And literature on this is now abounds itself on what development means and what should democracy imply. Having said this, Rajiv, I want to episodically say that today in this conference of IPPAR, currency in executive decisions, improving the reach and the quality of parliamentary debates and discussions. Second important area, how do you firewall institutions? How do you firewall institutions from an excessive politicization of these institutions? Well, the latest in the set of recommendations, the Punchi Committee report, a respectable 13-volume of recommendations of the Punchi Committee on Administrative Reforms, happily gathers dust, as indeed its many predecessor reports on firewalling institutions from excessive politicization. It's an important democratic challenge. Third, how do you enhance the competitiveness of the factors of production? Since 1991, India has liberalized a lot. We liberalized trade, liberalized industry, we have liberalized infrastructure, we have liberalized the entire power sector, the road sector, the telecom sector. There's a huge bunch of liberalization where competitiveness has been greatly enhanced. Garment industry has gone away to Bangladesh. And Anand Sharma struggles of how to give content to his manufacturing, to the real competitiveness of the manufacturing sector. Ajay Shankar is doing an exceedingly important work, but realizes the limitations of how to really overcome the limitations of labor. land, labor, mines, and of course the sky, water. Factors, classic factors of production remain unreformed while you have reformed trade, industry, and infrastructure to enhance competitiveness. Fourth, how do you put greater content to a fiscal federalism to benchmark fiscal federal practices to best international standards? Look at fiscal federal structures in Australia and Canada and other parts of the world. Fiscal federalism has responded to changes which have taken place. That's a big change, improving the kind and quality of interaction between the center and the states. The next big important issue is how do you manage risks? Risk anticipation and risk management. And Rajiv, you mentioned about the current account deficit. I'll just end by saying on that having handled the economic crisis of 1991, I'm beginning to see far too many similarities between the crisis of 2014, which bears ominous similarities to the crisis which we encountered in 1991. And finally, do we have a holistic structure which will enable us to build on our demography and create employment which is necessary to retain the social cohesiveness which is central to all democratic structures? And last but not the least, can we have judicial reforms and judicial accountability in a manner where we have reformed other two important institutions for purposes of improved governance? So I think that let me end by saying that it is not democracy versus development. We need to reform democracy to empower development. There is no hiatus between the two. There are important challenges. You cannot have meaningful development without meaningful democracy. And you cannot have meaningful democracy without meaningful development. The synergy between democracy and development is an interdependence which is the sine qua non and the overarching framework of all meaningful development, whose purpose must be to improve the life quality of the people of India. Thank you very much.